Welcome to the news. I am Nena Igwe. Making headlines, Ebonyi women round off 2025 August convention in Abakaliki. Police killed 7 bandits in Katsina State. And on the foreign scene, President Trump threatens to shut down Venezuelan jets should it pose danger to U.S. ships. Now the details of the stories. Ebonyi State Governor Chief Francis Nwifuru has distributed 10 mobility aids to disabled persons to mark the grand finale of the 2025 Women August Convention. Governor Nwifuru, represented by his deputy, Princess Patricia Obila, appreciated the efforts of women in the growth and development of the state. Government House correspondent Pauline Waniri Emwe completes the story.
Who described women as ambassadors of change, promised to give them an enabling environment to excel and improve the well-being of their families and communities. He implored women to be at the vanguard of disseminating information on voter registration to the rural populace to enable them exercise their franchise during the forthcoming elections.
Through our power project, child mortality has reduced to 0. A lot of things has happened in Ebonyi State through her pet project. My dear lovely wife, it shall be well with you. And that was why I keep saying that you still remain the strength that I have. And that's why I keep praising you, because you are the only pivot that revives the wheel of the progress on my head. Remember about INEC ongoing registration.
The wife of the governor, Mrs. Uzamaka Nwifuru, described August meeting as an annual tradition where women discuss ways to transform the rural communities through agriculture, peaceful coexistence, and proper home training to their children. The chairman of the occasion, Dr. Francisca Ogba, the Commissioner for Aviation, Dr. Ngozi Obichukwu, and her counterpart in the Ministry of Women Affairs, Mrs. Felicia Nwankpuma, commended Mrs. Nwifuru for bringing women together and being the source of strength for community development.
We have women who have served us before now, eminent women who piloted affairs of this state before now.
We are here to celebrate women. We are here to promote women. We are here to ensure that women are included in the administration of both states, local government and federal. And we are here to celebrate our mother, our dear governor's wife, Her Excellency, Chief Mrs. Uzamaka Nwifuru JP, who since he came in has been carrying women along.
The Ebonyi State government has successfully attracted the Nigerian for Women Project Scale-Up, a transformative World Bank funded initiative designed to enhance women economic empowerment and social inclusion. This project represents a significant milestone in our efforts to advance women development in our state.
The wives of the former governors of the state, Mrs. Josephine Elechi and Mrs. Ukamaka Egu, encourage women to provide for the less privileged and always put God first in their daily dealings.
Financial literacy.
Others who spoke included Mr. Nyekachi Ebonyi, Mr. Chinedu Uburu, and Mrs. Nkechi Nyeriyoko, among others, urged women to put into practice what they had learned at this year's August Assembly to inspire changes in their environment. Pauline Waniri Emwe, Salt TV News.
The state state government has approved for an executive bill to establish a much-anticipated Ebonyi State Education Development Trust Fund aimed at revolutionizing education funding that will boost the state's education landscape. The Commissioner for Information and State Orientation, Chief Ikowa Odmebe, stated this in his office of briefing newsmen on the outcome of the second phase of this week's edition of a State Executive Council meeting held at ESCO Chambers, Ochudo Centenary City, Abakaliki. Osondo Unguta has more to tell us.
Chief Ikowa Omebe would emphasize that the initiative is a response to the urgent need for stronger basic education funding in the state. Maintain that the trust fund will serve as a vital state-level financing mechanism designed to mobilize public and private resources to address key challenges in the sector, such as infrastructure deficits, teachers training, school feeding, transportation system, and ICT integration. He maintained that the contribution expected from government taxes, corporate organizations, and philanthropists will be channeled towards enhancing the learning environment for every child in the state. According to the Commissioner, the Council also approved a waiver to absorb 33 staff members from King David Gifted Academy into the Ebonyi State Secondary Education Board, noting that out of the 33 staff, 25 were teaching and 8 non-teaching staff, and emphasized the commitment of the present administration to educational development and supporting teachers who have worked tirelessly to maintain academic excellence in challenging circumstances.
The Ebonyi State Education Development Trust Fund, when established, is expected to also offer a credible and sustainable solution to Ebonyi State's basic education challenges by aligning resources for greater impact through transparent governance, joint planning, and strong oversight. The fund, which will be managed by a legally constituted board with the State Ministry of Education and other stakeholders, to identify priorities and ensure accountable implementation, will support the improvement of conducive learning environment by rehabilitating thousands of classrooms, construction of fences, and other security measures.
Earlier set up by the Council to investigate the petition against the Chairman and Secretary of Ebonyi State Internal Revenue Service by its members, as presented to the government, ESCO accepted the report and approved all the recommendations of the committee, which included rejigging of staff, enhanced orientation regarding responsibilities, and strict penalties for misconduct, and further mandated a forensic investigation into the application of technology within the revenue service to combat fraud and improve efficiency.
That the Providus Community Bank account, Mr. Emmanuel Elechi, be further investigated and his activity on the IGR automation system be investigated forensically to circumvent fraud. That every award of contract should pass through a transparent bidding and other due process of law before approval.
That the meeting touched on various sectors including youth development, transportation, and internal security, especially plans for the new pool service building at the State Olympic Sports Center, with the ESCO approving the State Council for Public Procurement to advertise for the contract, aligning with the state's vision for enhanced sports facilities.
On the need for timely and effective monitoring and evaluation of government projects, ESCO approved that henceforth all government ministries, departments, and agencies must inform the Ministry of Project Monitoring and Evaluation of any contract or project going on in their MDA to enable the ministry effectively undertake the monitoring and evaluation of government projects under their supervision. ESCO invited the General Manager, Ebonyi State Transport Company, Ebotrans, Chief Mrs. Nnenna Igwe and Dr. Simon Idenyi, the immediate past acting General Manager and the suspended Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transport, to throw light on the activities of the corporation. The invitees were further directed to prepare a comprehensive account of the activities of the corporation and present to ESCO to enable proper deliberation on the matter in the next ESCO meeting.
Additionally, measures to regulate activities of scrap dealers were being proposed, with potential legislations aimed at curbing excesses and imposing stringent penalties on offenders.
Chief Mrs. Nnenna Igwe and Dr. Simon Idenyi, the immediate past acting General Manager and the suspended Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Transport, to throw light on the activities of the corporation. The invitees were further directed to prepare a comprehensive account of the activities of the corporation and present to ESCO to enable proper deliberation on the matter in the next ESCO meeting.
The Commissioner also emphasized that the meeting marked a pivotal moment for the state, with resolutions geared to foster a sustainable and prosperous future for the citizens of the state. Osondo Nguta, Salt TV News.
Ebonyi State government says the essence of introducing introducing new reforms in the state's education sector is to bring about equity and uniformity as guide towards attainment of quality in education system. The Commissioner for Education, Dr. Donatus Elang, stated this in a press briefing in Abakaliki. The report.
The State Ministry of Education recently published a policy document introducing a number of reforms that would create an enabling environment to drive the desired quality results in the primary and secondary education subsectors of the state. The new policy, according to Dr. Donatus Elang, include unified textbooks for both private and public schools, use and reuse policy, closure of unapproved private faith-based schools, abolition of compulsory lessons, prohibition of graduation parties except for basic JSS 3 and SS 3, introduction of skill acquisition and entrepreneurship scheme, fail and repeat policy, prohibition of writing assessment inside textbooks, among others.
Every school in Ebonyi State, irrespective of the quarter it's coming from, must use government-approved textbooks. And we discovered that schools within a locality were using different textbooks. This is counterproductive for the state and to the entire educational system. We go towards our localities, including town, you see so many unapproved and unqualified private schools, some one room, some under tarpaulin, some uses their church to establish church auditorium, church halls. So all these unqualified, unregistered, unapproved schools, we have announced that they are already closed and we are going to follow it up.
The Commissioner for Education explained that the new reforms, which are meant to enhance sustainable and affordable education for Ebonyi children, will be implemented to the later. Dr. Elang, who disclosed that the policy was not a deliberate effort to push private school owners out of business, lamented that parents are passing through difficulties fending for their children in schools, especially in the hands of Shylock private and faith-based school proprietors.
And once we have started, we'll continue with monitoring until we sanitize the system. The overall, there's no witch hunt. It is a policy that means to unify and also effectively improve our educational system.
He called on traditional rulers, town union presidents, the press, village heads, and indeed all stakeholders in the education sector to assist the Ministry of Education in ensuring effective implementation of the policy by reporting any infraction or violation. I am Moses Erogo.
You're watching Soul Television News. We'll be back with more stories. Please stay. Thanks for staying tuned. The Lagos State chapter of All Progressive Congress (EBBC) has fired back at Peter Obi over his criticism of President Bola Tinubu's overseas holiday, insisting that governance continues despite the president taking a break. Obi, the 2023 Labour Party presidential candidate, has taken a swipe at Tinubu's frequent trips, suggesting they gave the impression that the president is at a time Nigeria is in dire need of his presence. Detail.
Responding via statement on Saturday, APC spokesperson Seyi Oladejo accused Obi of opportunistic commentary and warned him against commenting on routine presidential activities. Oladejo said President Tinubu, like any responsible leader, remains fully briefed and in active communication with his security and intelligence teams. Even while on a brief vacation, governance does not grind to a halt simply because a leader takes time to rest, especially in an age where secure, real-time communication is always within reach. He accused Obi of politicizing government actions, arguing that the former Anambra governor's approach appeared more focused on criticism than offering constructive alternatives.
At least 7 persons were reportedly killed when some suspected bandits armed with sophisticated weapons attacked Magajin Awando village in Dandume local government area of Katsina State. The State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Dr. Nasir Dan Musa, confirmed the tragic incident in a statement on Saturday. Detail.
To the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, the incident occurred last night between 11 p.m. and midnight. Preliminary findings indicated that the ambush was carried out by the same group of criminals on the move to avenge some of their members killed in the Magaji Wando community during the repel by the Community Watch Corps. During the attack, many residents of the community on their way to the hospital were said to have also been injured during the ambush by the members of the Katsina State Community Watch Corps for their swift and courageous intervention and for preventing what he said could have been a far more devastating outcome for the community. Dan Musa restated government's commitment to intensifying security operations across the state and pledged its determination to continue to work closely with the military, police and other security agencies to track down and dismantle the criminal networks behind the attacks.
Villagers in a remote area of Sudan's western Darfur region are trying to reach buried victims by hand after a devastating landslide. People are excavating by hand to rescue the bodies of their relatives since there are no tools or machinery. Francisco Lanino, the group's Deputy Sudan Director of Programs and Operations, said. Detail.
It is unclear how many people died, but figure from the National Health Ministry stated that only 2 bodies had been recovered, but an armed group in charge of the area gave the total as high as 1,000. Save the Children said at least 373 bodies had been recovered, according to the head of the civil authority. Mr. Lanino said 1,000 lives may have been lost, including an estimated 200 children. Save the Children staff described sense of destruction and devastation after the landslide caused by heavy rainfall as tragic and large-scale disasters in the region's history.
And on U.S., Donald Trump has warned that if Venezuelan jets fly over U.S. naval ships and put the country in a dangerous position, they will be shot down. The president's warning comes after Venezuelan flew military aircraft near a U.S. vessel off South America for the second time in 2 days. Let's see the detail.
The report follows a U.S. strike against what Trump officials said was a drug-carrying vessel from Venezuela operated by a gang, killing 11 people. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has said that the U.S. allegations about his country are not true and that differences between the nations do not justify a military conflict. Trump told his general standing beside him that he could do anything he wanted if the situation escalated. Since his return to office in January, Trump has steadily intensified his anti-drug trafficking efforts in Latin America. Maduro has accused the U.S. of seeking regime change through military threats. When asked about the comments, Trump said, "We are not talking about that," but mentioned what he called a very strange election in Venezuela. Maduro was sworn in for his 3rd term in January after a contested election.
And with that story, we end the news. Before we go, a quick look at the major stories. Ebonyi State Governor Chief Francis Winfrey has distributed 10 mobility aids to disabled persons to mark the grand finale of the 2025 Women August meeting. At least 7 persons were reportedly killed when some suspected bandits armed with sophisticated weapons attacked Magajin Wando village in Dandume local government area of Katsina State. On the foreign scene, we brought you a report that Donald Trump has warned that if Venezuelan jets fly over U.S. naval ships and put the country in a dangerous position, they will be shut down. Thanks for watching. My name is Nena Igwe. Good night.